How's everybody doing today? Hello, hello. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Hear me, see me?
Yes. Good morning.
Okay, guys. We had a week off last week. Did you ever have the wonderful 4th? We did something fun. It works better if you say something.
We stayed inside because I live in Texas, so it was raining a lot. And yeah.
1 second.
I went to Oklahoma, so I went to cabin with my family. So it was fun. So I enjoyed it.
Now say something.
We're here, doctor.
Thank you very much. Sorry. My others just no warning. Usually I get a beep, beep, beep if they're going to go dead, but I didn't get a warning. It's not dead. Okay, dokie. So I apologize for not being able to hear you. And I realized you were talking to me. I just couldn't hear you. And now you can't see me. Okay, let's do all that at the same time. Hear and see. Okay, so how'd studying go?
It was okay with me. It was all right with me. Some of us missed it, some of us couldn't make it, but it was all right with me. I had
Okay.
one with Tamika and the other lady, and I think the other lady just came in. No, yeah, it was just Tamika, the other lady, and I here today.
Okay. So what did you learn? How did it work? What did you do?
So we went back to chapter 1
Mm-hmm.
where we was just like trying to make sure we got the main theories down, packing our
Okay.
head.
Okay. Very
So
good.
we made sure we got Eric Everson, all of them. I'm gonna say all the people in chapter 1 at least, from what I remember. But it was like I said, it was good. Like Tamika could tell you, it was okay. We actually tried to get studying down a little better than what we thought. So
Okay. 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 What stage of Erickson are you in?
oh, that's a good question. I think I'm still on.
Don't I
I'm
ask that
still
question
on.
every week?
Huh?
Don't I ask that question every week? Okay, but that one I try to ask it every week. So for me, the one of the best ways to remember them is to go where I'm at, and they go back or up, because I can remember where I'm at, and then I can remember like the one after me and the one before that one. So that makes it real.
I know what stage I am on. It's intimacy versus isolation. I
Very good,
know.
very good, very good, very good, very good. And he says, if you don't have had at least one healthy relationship by 39, you'll die an old maid. Okay, not quite that, but
With cats. Old lady with cats.
absolutely, absolutely. I have 2 dogs. Maybe that's me, but I've had interest. I've got 3 kids. Okay, so are we doing diversity this week? So we've studied etic and emic and some of those terms.
Yeah, chapter 2. We're supposed to be talking about chapter 2 because you had us to do chapter 2
Mm-hmm.
the week before that. So I think we're supposed to be doing chapter 2. I'm not sure. But we haven't done it with you.
Okay, so let's talk about it. In chapter 2, there are some of the LGBTQIA terms. The people that have taken the test before, do you recall seeing those on the test? You'll get a couple usually.
I remember them. I'm trying to think back on the ones that I remember.
Maybe a couple.
I remember because you did this video in 2019. It talks a little bit. So I remember you talking about multiple cross cultural, emic and image,
Mhm.
emic and edit
Mhm.
viewpoints.
Mhm.
I know you was mentioning about how cultural bias. I know you was talking about
Girl,
cultural.
I was all up in your head this week, wasn't I?
Right, telling you that video.
I'm impressed. I am very, very impressed. Okay, so let's look at some questions here.
That video had helped. It was old video. I couldn't find a newer video of it, but you had did a lot of questions on that video too. I actually enjoyed the question because they helped a lot.
Very good, very good, very good. And it doesn't matter if it's 2000, no, nothing's changed. In the last 5 years, nothing's changed. Okay, 1 second. Let me find my Word doc. Battery in my mouse.
Oh, Dr. Pam, from the week before 4th of July, the Microsoft Word that you had did it, we couldn't open it for some weird reason.
What was it? Was it the transcripts
Oh.
of this?
Uh-uh. It was the one, you know how you copy and paste and put it in the chat, and then you have it all in the Microsoft Word, whatever you copy and paste. Well, the Microsoft Word that you sent us, it somehow
Wouldn't
didn't
open.
open. Yeah,
Okay.
it wouldn't open.
No, I probably don't know where those are.
It's okay. It's
Because I
okay.
was
Look,
gonna say I probably don't know what that's like 2 weeks ago. You know how many club groups I've seen since then? Okay.
look, I don't remember it either. All I know is that
Yeah, I don't
I
remember.
just wanted to tell you.
So thank you, and check today before we leave. Make sure this one opens. Okay. Can you see my questions?
Yes.
Okay. You guys can work on them together. I've got to go get a new battery. My mouse is just not working for me. Okay, be right back.
Y'all want to do it together, guys?
Sure.
One of us can read out loud.
I'll read the first one. Blank is defined as our concept of ourselves as male, female, a blend of both or neither. Is that sexuality identity, gender orientation, gender identity, or sexual orientation?
Would we take out the sexual ones?
That's what I was thinking, to remove
I
too.
was
both.
thinking it too, cause
Does
I
everybody
ain't gonna
agree?
lie. I thought
I
that
agree.
too. Yeah, I think we
Okay.
should take out the sexual things.
Okay, so then we would take out A and D, and then we would go back to our question. Do you want to read it, Tamika?
Yes. Blank is defined as our concept of ourselves as male, female, a blend of both, or neither.
Joe says C.
I would say C.
Guys, and what is so what is gender orientation? Can y'all help me with that?
I cannot.
What you say? I'm sorry, what you say?
What is gender orientation?
Isn't that
Oh,
the
look, we gonna have to look that up.
Okay. I can look.
I think
I'll
I've
look
ever
on,
heard of gender orientation, probably more
I'll
like
look on my
sexual
Hellwig. Give
orientation.
me
the attraction, no? Like when you're attracted to I don't know if it's the opposite.
Yeah,
okay. So what I
Kathy
see,
is right. Kathy is right. It's what you attracted to.
it's what you're attracted to.
Yeah,
But
that's
I would think, well, I thought there was sexual orientation. So I guess I need to figure out the difference between gender orientation and sexual orientation.
Okay. Yes.
Is there a difference?
I'm looking it up. Okay. So what I see is gender orientation in individuals' deeply felt sense of their own gender, which may or may not align with the sex assigned at birth. I'm going to copy and paste it. Copy.
And sexual orientation is what we attracted to, like heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, and all that. So there is a difference between the two.
Sense of their own. Do we still choose C?
Yes.
I still choose C. I see where, and I'm just looking this up on the internet, but I see where gender orientation and gender identity, I guess can kind of be used interchangeably. So I'm not sure. But if I had to choose, I would go with C.
Me too. I go with Joe. Okay, let's try the second one.
Am I reading? Since the age of 6, Giselle, a biological female, has constantly dressed in more masculine clothing, preferred male playmates, and expressed a desire to be a boy. During puberty, Giselle expressed feelings of significant depression about developing breasts and would wrap them tightly so they wouldn't show under clothing. Giselle may be experiencing A. Gender dysphoria, B. Cisgender identity, C. Gender fluidity, D. Gender stereotyping.
D already got the question. You know that D is out the question. I was thinking that too, Joe. Not gonna lie. I'm sorry, y'all. My baby didn't show her face. She think I'm at work.
Look at the cuteness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I couldn't get her. She looked like me, and she a handful.
Do y'all remember what gender fluidity is?
I think that is where you are. It's kind of like you're with who you're with at that time. So,
Yeah, what I remember from my first go round with Dr. Pam was sometimes you identify as a girl and then sometimes you identify as a boy.
yes.
So it's like fluid, so
Mhm.
it's not you're not always a male or you're not always a female. And I think one of the other videos that I saw,
Mhm.
I think they compared it to Prince. Or you
Mhm.
know how Prince sometimes he would wear like the bell bottoms and more of the like feminine clothing, and then sometimes he would wear like the bad boy leather, more male clothing. So then, not to say he would, he had gender fluidity, but where he changed it up all the time would be a good. So I have that like on my notes. I have Prince in parentheses when it comes to gender fluidity.
Mhm.
Wait, nah. Girl, you know how many people this is? It's a basketball player. I forgot what his name is.
Rodman,
He did that a lot. How?
I think his name is Rodman, or is that who you're talking
Yeah.
about? The very first one.
Mm-hmm.
Painted his nails. He wore funny hair colors. Would wear like halter tops, different things like that. I know that it's not cisgender because that is usually you identifying with the sex that you were given at birth. So, it would definitely not be that because it is saying that she's a biological female. So it wouldn't be cisgender. Yes, A would be the answer.
Look at you teaching me, Tamika. I had to look it up. I said, wait a minute, she ain't lying.
Oh,
It is that.
I'll look up the gender stereotyping just too, but I know we know it. There's only one place that they have it, and it's not even the definition. It's just included in like a sentence.
I think the gender stereotyping, because I saw it on the video with Dr. Pam, that it explains like the role and the beliefs and roles that like a male or a female should do. So that's gender.
Okay.
Kind of like that girls should wear have toys like to clean because later on they're
Yeah.
gonna
Like
mhm.
girls don't play football.
yeah, exactly.
I'm having difficulty getting my act together this morning. Okay, so let's try this again. Okay, so what was number one?
He
It's
said
a
number one
gender.
was gender identity.
Okay, So, and then how do I know that? That's just a recall.
We had broke it down to like, it's in my tip toe. I'm so sorry. So we
So
started
what's the
breaking-
difference between sexual orientation and gender?
Sexual orientation is who you're attracted to. Gender is
Got
who you see yourself.
Got it. So I am boy, girl, or I can do X or non-binary. Right. So that chooses the best. They're label myself as a girl or boy, he or she, or they then is non-binary, or sometimes we'll see X. Okay. So that's my who I am. That's boy, girl. Now, if I don't agree with what I look like, if you called me a girl at birth and then I look in the mirror and I don't think I'm a girl, what's that? I came out of my mother's womb and I had a vagina and breasts, but now that I am looking in the mirror at 2 or 3, I don't think that I'm a girl.
Dysphoria.
Gender dysphoria. That's the DSM diagnosis. I'm unhappy with the gender that you assigned me at birth. Okay. Gender fluidity. What's that?
And to make it easy for us to remember Prince.
Oh no, we're not going there. No, we're not going there. No. You crossed the line. We don't care what he is. We just loved him. Okay, so we just loved him. I cried and hadn't had anybody out here cry. I was crying for days and no one was here but me. Like, where are my Prince fans at? Oh my God, it was so awful. So but definitely, and I don't know if I did it in that video, but sometimes I use the song Almond Joy has nuts, mounds don't. The Almond Joy commercial a long time ago, Almond Joy had nuts and mounds didn't. I didn't make it up. Sometimes you feel like you have nuts, sometimes you don't. That's gender fluidity, okay? Sometimes I dress like a man, sometimes I dress like a woman. My gender is fluid. But that really was a commercial, I swear. I can't play it because then my YouTube, it can't be placed on YouTube. But just go and Google the old Almond Joy commercial. So mounds is gooey coconuts and Almond Joy has nuts. Okay. So I was too young when that came out to know if there was any sexual innuendos behind that, but that's literally what it means. Okay, so our sexual orientation is who we sleep with. Our gender is who we are. We can be unhappy with the gender that we're born with, and we can then, in many states, change your gender. In my state, if you, and this is not politically based, it's not what's happening this week of what the current president says. In my state, you can't change your driver's license. So if it says male, no matter what gender or what surgery you've had, it still says male. And so you can't change your birth certificate. So I live in the South. So issue always is, when there's a college here in the LGBTQIA community. So when we go to college and we go to parties or whatever, and if I used to be a girl, I can't change my driver's license if I identify as a man now because my birth certificate can't be changed in my state. Okay. Anybody work with anybody in prison? There's always an issue with when people are put into prison where they belong. So because if I identify as a male, and transitioning is any way across that spectrum of changing, whether I've started to take hormones, whether I've actually had some surgery, all of those things are part of transitioning to the other gender. So if I had a client who was definitely identified as a woman. She had breasts, and they weren't like fake. She had breasts. And she was actually a biological male. And then when she got arrested and put in prison, that was the issue, is where should she go? I think they kept her in solitary, unfortunately, because she didn't fit in either place. But that's a real issue for prisons of trying to decide what to do with clients who don't fit on that spectrum there, or where we think they should be. Did anyone work with someone who's gendering, transitioning, or changing?
Wow. I read a lot of my lifetime. I used to date a stripper who went to clubs. There was a lot of transgenders there. So, it was, they are, like you said, the jail, like when I worked at Dallas County, I used to work inside intake. So whenever they come in for intake, they would have to tell them that they are transgender and that
Mhm,
they want to be put in a certain population. And we
mhm,
had to put them in there because if they didn't, I think they would got sued. That was what got sued
mhm,
for.
mhm, mhm.
So we took that seriously. It was like expedite. Every time a transgender came in there and said, I identify myself as a woman or identify
Mhm.
myself as a male, they took it seriously. So
So I think either way, that would be, I'd worry either way, because if I put you with the women, and you're not a biological woman, I'd get sued then as well. So I think I'd be worried either way. But definitely that's an issue that we've seen in prison populations. One of the things that we talk about is etic and emic. Do you know those terms?
I remember them terms and the kinetic.
So, let's
I
go here.
know.
Kathy, do you know those terms?
Yeah, I know that well, let me see, because one of them is that you don't see differences in culture, and then the other one is where you do see, like, you respect and like put yourself in their shoes depending on the culture. But I keep getting them confused.
Okay. So we don't want to be etic. That's the worldview. And it sounds like it's good because I see everybody the same way, but that's not really true. Etic, if from the test, remember it's coming from the upper white man population. If you're a woman of color, if you're whatever, you're already the minority. Okay. Well, I realize that white women or women in general outpopulate men. In general, white men have kind of ruled. So when we talk about culture, remember that's the eyes that you have to see it from. So as a woman, you've already been a minority. And if you're a woman of color, then you're still a minority. However, the test is not written from your viewpoint. It's written from the old white man viewpoint. If there was a class, ethics wasn't written for, so cultural diversity was not written for anyone us in this room. It was written for people that had only seen it themselves, had never seen anyone else of color or anyone else or woman. So remember, going back history, it really was only about having white men understand, because they were the therapists, they were the smart guys, and they needed to see what it was like from other people's culture. So the etic viewpoint comes from the upper middle class white men, the therapists we study, the Freudians, the Maslow, the Carl Rogers, right? They all, these amazing wealthy men. So from that viewpoint, then I really may not know about other cultures. So the etic viewpoint is saying we all bleed red. Is that true? Anybody bleed green? Anybody bleed purple? Anybody? You sure? You want to cut yourself to make sure? You're positive? Okay, so that is true. That is absolutely true. That's the worldview. Everybody bleeds red. When you go to the emergency room, does everybody get treated the same? That's the emic viewpoint. The emic is understanding that, yes, we have a lot of kinks in common. We all have, a nose and two eyes. But what happened to me at the emergency room may be different than what you experienced at the emergency room. And that's many times not even based on the color of my skin. It's based on socioeconomic status. If I got good insurance, right, I get treated different. That's the emic viewpoint, understanding that from my client's viewpoint, this is what happened, and it's really okay. Okay, that's emic. So etic is what we don't want to do. Emic is what we want to be. We want to understand it from how the client experienced it. Okay. I travel a lot. I love to travel, and when I was thinking I was on the Amalfi Coast in this one, and I was on a ferry in Greece, the Greek Isles. Yes, that's where I was. But anyway, I was in the bathroom, and a man came in to clean the bathroom when I was in the bathroom. That doesn't usually happen in the U.S., does it? So I come out of the bathroom. There's a man cleaning. And I look around and I'm thinking, since it was Italian, maybe I read the wrong sign, maybe I was in the wrong place. But then another woman came out and she washed her hands like it was no big deal. Okay. So while that felt foreign to me from my ethnic American viewpoint, we don't do that. But from an emic viewpoint, understanding when I'm traveling to other countries, that's what's normal for that country. Anybody have anybody come visit, or anybody that when they went to use the bathroom, they put the toilet paper in the trash can and not in the toilet? Pee-pee, not the other one, just pee-pee toilet paper, put it in the trash. Anybody see that? Nobody? Work with some people from the islands, especially any country where our water is the same water that we fish from, that we get our food from. My fecal material, my pee-pee is biodegradable, well, it's degradable, right? It'll break down. It's okay. Toilet paper doesn't. So there are lots of countries, especially countries that their food comes from their water, or water is limited, that you just don't do that. But then you come to the United States and now you're like, and I'm like in the bathroom, and why is there toilet paper? Why is it not flushed? Or not flushing every single time I pee? Because if water is a really big deal, then I'm not going to do that.
I actually have and I don't even know if you know this, doctor, but I work for immigration, and we whenever like when Border Patrol finds the minor females, they go to our shelter. We have them. So I just got a girl this week, or this past week. I got a girl that
Where are you?
had no idea. I'm in South Texas, so
Okay.
by the border. We got a girl that she had never heard the toilet flush. So when she heard it and like the swooshing and all that, she just had
Freaked
no
out.
idea. She thought maybe like a bomb blew up from under her or something. Something happened. Very different for her. So she probably had to do the whole, right? Who even knows if she had toilet paper? So she very, very scared of the toilet.
And again, I just traveled a lot, but even in like Rome, they still have the old-fashioned hole in the ground. There are hopefully bars, because as I get older, I can't get up, but there were bars, and you bend over the hole in the ground in a nice restaurant. We would freak out. Like you're in the nice fancy restaurant and you go to the bathroom and there's a hole. That's life. That's life. That's life. When we were in Belize, and we're staying on an island. And when I looked down, I saw the water, and I kept thinking someone's going to jump and bite me. I'm not going to lie. I know it was kind of deep down, but my first thought was, you know what? I can't explain no bite down there. I don't know how to explain that. But the fresh catch came from the water every day. The water was beautiful. The fish was so good. But the same water that I saw for dinner was the fresh catch. They just caught it. So if I put toilet paper in there, that's especially not biodegradable, then that's going to clog up that whole system. So you just don't do that. So as Americans, and especially if you live around other cultures, you probably had to learn some other things of what you've been taught. Right? Because we can't have that etic view. Oh my God, there's something wrong with them. They put the toilet paper. What's wrong with them? Absolutely. Sanitary. Yeah, I thought you were going to go with sanitary napkins. I thought you were going to go there. That's not universal. So I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't use a sanitary napkin, or I wouldn't use a tampon either many times. In America, the cup has just become newer. But the what's it called? The cap that you, when you're bleeding, you put it up there. I'm too old to know. So that's been something that's been around in other countries forever. We just didn't do it in this country. You're looking at me like I just made it up, Tamika. I swear I didn't.
No, I believe you. I'm like, did America took this long to do that? Now I'm starting to question this country for real.
Well, because we've always, I mean, no matter, even our poorest of poor still have basic needs. Our poorest of poor still have water. Right? Our poorest of poor still have water. You can live in a country that, especially again, European countries that have been around forever and forever, and to not have water is not a big deal. The water's fresh. The aqueducts, especially in Rome, you can still drink it. So it's not a big deal like it is here. We would die if we didn't have a washing machine. That doesn't happen in other countries. I swear to you. And it doesn't mean you're poor. It just means we just don't have it. So that's anemic. And again, I want to make it real. I don't want you to try to memorize it. I want you to know what it actually feels like. Okay. Allo and autoplasty are the changes. Alloplasty is the world needs to change. Autoplasty is I have to change. Let me find some questions. Again, this is the place that has the least number of questions. So we really don't spend a lot of time in here at all, just because there's so few questions. We're going to tutor to where the majority of the points are. One of the other things that I think we're getting more used to in America, but paying for public toilets. So bigger cities, I'm now seeing that happen, but in other countries, you've always paid for public toilets. Okay, so that's it. And there's many times, especially when you're traveling outside the country, that you have to the guide would always tell us where you could use the bathroom. And here, if you live like, so some McDonald's will say restrooms are for customers only, depending on where you're at. But most people can find a public restroom, right? You stop at a gas station, you can find some place to go to the bathroom. That's not the same way outside the US. So many times you have to pay for the restroom. I was in there's an airport, a train station that connects France and Germany and Switzerland. And I had to go to the bathroom so bad. And I'm like throwing tokens in because the gate won't open. And I'm like trying to not peel myself. And because I don't know the difference between like a euro and a franc and how much it's cost. It was only like 25 cents, but I couldn't figure out which coin to use. So you would never think about it in the mall here, would you? Would you pay to go to the restroom in the mall? Not at all. Okay. Next question. Let's start with you, Kathy. Did you see it?
No, I don't see the question.
It probably helps if I share.
Blank helped to popularize the multicultural counseling movement. A is Arthur Jensen's.
Stand my question. So the multicultural counseling movement. What's that?
That's when like being aware of other cultures.
Okay. So yes. So realizing that, yes, exactly.
So A, Arthur Jensen's views on IQ testing, also known as Jensenism. B, the civil rights movement. C, Jung's feeling that all men and women from all cultures possess a collective unconscious. Or D, the Tarasov duty. So I would eliminate the Tarasov duty because that's duty to warn.
So hold on. Every state has duty to warn.
Yeah.
Every state either means duty to warn the client or the police. The Tarasov Act specifically says you warn the client. Okay, so every state has duty to warn, and it's different in your state of who you have to warn. But Tarasov specifically says you warn the client. That's the Tanya Tarasov Act. That was the girl at UC Berkeley. You learned about it back in school. His name was Podar. He was an Indian, and that he was attracted to her. And when fall came back, they'd gone for the summer, and they came back for a fall semester. The counselor knew that he was kind of crazy, but he didn't tell her. So that's that. So Tarasov specifically says to help the client. By the way, this was probably in the 70s, I think, early 70s. He actually just got deported. He never showed any jail time. Just a piece of fact of information. So, okay. So what else can I check out?
Yes, the other one would be C.
I will. Okay. So the Jung's feelings in all women and men from all cultures, perspective, collective unconsciousness. Do you know what that means? Carl Jung, and we don't talk a lot about him. Carl Jung is like back during Freudian times. So Carl Jung is the basis for the MBTI, right? The Myers-Briggs personality test, introvert, extrovert. He's the basis for that. And he did believe, different than Freud, that our unconscious doesn't just contain my stuff. It's not just what happens in my life. He believes that what's in your unconscious is what's happened to you your whole life. Okay. However, he never met anyone from a different culture than his. So he did believe in collective unconsciousness. That's absolutely true. But he didn't collect information from he didn't look at all cultures. None of our early therapists did at all. It is not until recently that we've taken to consideration other cultures. Okay. The Jensenian movement. Does anybody know what that means? That movement said that Black people were just not as intelligent as white people. Okay. There's another theory that talks about, do you know the term eugenics? Eugenics means, that's why the kings and queens married each other. Eugenics means that if we want to keep all of our good qualities, we marry within our own race, our own family.
That would confuse me with the Galton.
So Galton is eugenics.
He is.
Yes. Okay. Jensen is Black people just not smart enough. Sir Francis Galton was eugenics. Okay. You see my script right there? Eugenics. So Sir Francis Galton was actually the first cousin of Charles Darwin. Do you remember Charles Darwin and what he did? Darwinism in general was the fact that humans develop and change. Most people have talked about him about if man came from monkeys. Okay, but that's not all of his theory. His theory is just survival of the fittest, that in society, that animals and people, we change and adapt through generations to make it fit for the current society. So Darwinism is that, we're a product of our environment, and human beings change. Then eugenics is his cousin, and he says, if we want to keep us all smart, we got to marry our first and second cousins. So back in the day, especially, kings and queens would marry in their same bloodline to keep the bloodline pure. You ever heard the blue people of Kentucky? They're really blue. I swear. Most of them have actually dispersed by now. My daughter went to school in rural Kentucky. So we definitely would see them at the Walmart many times. So the blue people it's a genetic abnormality from marrying within your family. In this particular family, they actually, so they were in Appalachia, Kentucky, in the mountain ranges. So the people that they were marrying were their cousins, or they were their people. So
And
that genetic,
what was their reason for doing it in Kentucky?
well, they would say because they lived on the mountain and there was nobody else up there. Okay, so that's what they said, and you'll see them still in the grocery store. There's a Walmart, and you'll see them in Walmart. So this is the oldest one, and this was like 2013. But you'll see still descendants that still have that light hue of blue. So remember, like now we have like roads and access to mountaintops. So if we saw that whole thing with the floods in North Carolina, right there, all these amazing mega homes on mountaintops. Back then, you couldn't get there. Okay. And mountaintop people were trying to get away from other people. So a lot of our Native Americans lived in the mountaintops too. Now the rich people live there, but that's not how it started. The poor people lived there. So when they got away from the Appalachia, they all lived at the top of the mountain, and they married, inbred. They married each other. So eugenics is that study, or people who believe that it's okay to marry because it keeps it in your bloodline. In Georgia, it's only illegal to marry your first cousin. You can marry others, you just can't marry your first cousin. Just gonna put that out there, okay? That's eugenics. And that really is, I'll put it on, I'll put the link in there, but really it's very much true. Okay, so now back to my question. So the question is the civil rights movement. Do we know why? Tell me more about that. Come on, tell me about the civil rights movement. What happened? Y'all went to high school. So when the Supreme Court ordered that schools be blended. So before that, we had the separate but equal. So it was illegal in the United States for Black children and white children to go together to the same courses. It was illegal. Especially in the South. And again, I'm learning this just I love talking to people. So if you're a Black man and you wanted to be a doctor, and if Tennessee didn't have a medical school for Black doctors, the state had to pay to send you to a different state to allow you to get that education. So separate but equal was the law. Okay. So this is, and I've still got some in my house, Black and color people and white people, the water signs. Because it was illegal. It was illegal for you to drink out of the white water fountain. So what happened then in 1956, there was a whole civil rights movement, Martin Luther King, walking across the bridge in Alabama. That's what changed things. Now, white people who had never, ever seen Black kids in school now had to see that. It was mainly in the South. If you grew up North, it wasn't such a big deal as it was in the South. But in the South, the Little Rock Three, there were 3 little girls that wanted to go to school in Arkansas. It was the federal government said it's legal, but the governor of Arkansas said that's not going to happen. So the National Guard came in to make sure these 3 little girls got to go to school. So that's that civil rights movement. That's when schools now were not separate, but they were actually, now we went to the same schools. So that was the first time that really majority of white Americans saw anybody of color. Prior to that, it was illegal to live in the white neighborhood. It was literally illegal. It may be uncomfortable sometimes, but it's not illegal now, but it was illegal back then. So that's the first time that we really began to have to deal with people of color. and not necessarily Black people, Hispanic people, other people, because again, you live in your own community. So that's what helps the multicultural community. So, you know, it's really a new process then. So if you think about this, this has been since 1956 that schools were integrated. And in one of my videos, I talk about that. I go to school in 1970. Yes, you weren't even born yet. But I promise you, in my elementary school, it was like elementary school, K through 8th, none of the teachers had ever seen a Black student. So it was looking back, it was traumatic. At the time, I didn't know it was different, but it was very traumatic. So that's the multicultural movement. That's when things change. That's when we really began to see testing and things that really looked at people of color. Does that ring a bell?
Like around the same time where Black folks couldn't even enter a white restaurant as well.
Absolutely. So then when it became segregated, it was segregated before, and then we integrated. So then things changed.
They still have that. My cousin went to California some years ago, and she said she couldn't believe it, but it was a restaurant that told her she couldn't get in because she was colored. She was a different, she was Black. And I was like, wow, that's in California. I'm like, I can't believe she didn't see that in Texas, because in Dallas, there's a certain area where like can't be over there around nighttime because the police officer gonna pull you over and ask you why you over here.
So it's not illegal, though. It's not illegal. It's just culturally, we know in our culture, you know better. Back in the day, there were it was called the Green Book, and the Green Book was a list of when people of African-American families would travel. It would tell them where you could stop safely. It would say, you know, don't be in this town after sundown. So again, it wasn't illegal. It culturally, you just knew that you would not be safe. And especially if you're in the South in the early 50s and 60s, even if it was illegal, no one was going to do anything. So let's stay there just for a minute. So when we talk about race and ethnicity, what's the difference?
I know race is you're either white, Black, or Asian.
Okay. So that's my genetic makeup. That's the pure race, right? Now you can be Hispanic, and you can be Hispanic and label yourself as Caucasian. You can be Hispanic and label yourself as Black, after black skin, or you can be Hispanic and be Asian. So if we look at like Peru, the Chinese Empire invaded down there. So I don't know where you live, but we have a lot of Guatemalans in our area, and many times our Guatemalans are shorter stature and kind of the flatter face that look more like the Hispanic, the Asian background. Your culture, you decide. Okay, your culture and ethnicity, you can decide what that is. So we may all look alike, and you may see people in the group that have the hue of your skin, but that doesn't mean they eat the same thing that you do. It doesn't mean that they have the same culture that you do. Does that make sense? Okay, anybody who lives in the South, anybody, Texas, South Texas, y'all have sweet tea, don't you?
Yes.
Yes. It's diabetes in a cup. It's like this brown water that's got sugar. I don't know what else to tell you. And sometimes you put a lemon in, but it's like diabetes in a cup. That's a Southern thing. That's not a race thing. It's a cultural thing. So that's the culture of the South. Southern hospitality is a Southern thing. I didn't know that. I went to school in Miami, and people say that's South, but it's really not. It's more like New York. It's very multicultural. And when I moved here to Tennessee, people want to talk all the time. And I'm like, oh my God, why are you talking to me? Like my very first job I got here, I came as a college professor. I moved here and I finally got the job. And my boss was the dean of nursing. And I went up one day to get her to sign something. And I've probably been there like a month maybe. And she starts telling me about her son-in-law who's an alcoholic. Like, what makes you think I care? Like, what? But I've learned that's culture. That's culture in this area. People talk a lot, and you're supposed to pay attention and listen to them. That's a southern thing. That's not a northern thing. Anybody who lives north of Kentucky? Anybody lives north of Kentucky? That's, yeah, no. Small talk is a southern thing. We don't do that in other places. If you're on the subway in New York, you don't talk to anybody. You just wouldn't. You get on, you get off, you run your business, and you're done. You don't talk to people. But in the South, you talk to people. Okay. So has anybody moved that you lived in a culture and you moved to a different culture?
My family, I'm second generation Welsh. I
Okay.
grew up in California and I live in Alabama. So,
Oh, God, we had this conversation a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was like
Yes.
freaking out for you. So do we talk about assimilation and acculturation?
we've not talked about it, but I have heard the terms. Yes.
Okay. So acculturation is first generation, usually adds the new culture. Okay. So when you moved to Alabama, I am sure there are still some California food, the way you eat, the way you dress, some things that you kept with you, that you brought with you. So you added, and it doesn't have to be outside the United States, because the United States still has many cultures. So what we know is you added then the Southern culture to your culture. Your children have never lived in California and won't remember. They'll grow up in the Alabama country, in the Alabama culture. So they will be assimilated. They will look like a typical Alabamian, talk like they're going to have a Southern drawl. You know that, right?
Oh, please don't.
I'm going to tell you that right now. That's going to happen. Okay. They have to go to school. Okay. So they're similar. So the second generation assimilates, the first generation acculturates. Now, remember back with Piaget, accommodation was second. So don't get accommodation and acculturation confused. Acculturation, you add the new culture. The second generation then assimilates. With Piaget, assimilation happens first, right? You think the spoon, you think the four-legged thing that looks like a dog, it's really a cat, and it looks similar. That happens first. And then you accommodate, you make room in your schema for new information. Okay, make sense? Yes? So believe it or not, when we talk about diversity, we are talking now about older people. Okay, so we still have a lot of the baby boomers who are still working, overworked, who have retired and come back. So knowing about the elderly population really is also part of knowing culture. Knowing in human development that if I was extremely sexual when I was 20, I'll be the same way at 50, 60, 70, 80. The ability to perform may change, but the desire doesn't change. If I was nasty when I was nasty in me when I was 30, I'm gonna be nasty in me when I'm 80. So not everybody, unless there is some kind of neurological, neurocognitive disorder, right? So I get some, I'm thinking senility, but that's not the term. So I definitely may get Alzheimer's, right? So that changes my personality. But other than that, who I was doesn't change. Our body actually peaks out physically at 30 and then goes down after that physically and then as well as mentally. Okay, so let's see here. This is yours, Edna.
Alrighty. A counselor who works primarily with older adults needs to be aware that. So the question is saying that a counselor who works with the older population, what they need to be aware of. Okay. A, too many counselors choose gerontology as a specialty. B, individuals over 65 tend to overuse hotline and helpline crisis counseling services. C, Surprisingly, attractiveness is a fine predictor of retirement adjustment. Or D, surprisingly, financial security and health are the best predictors of retirement adjustment. Go back to my question. A counselor who works primarily with older adults needs to be aware that what? I would take out A, too many counselors choose gerontology as their specialty.
So gerontology is the study of old people. So that's just not true.
I would take out B also.
Tell me about that. So do you think
I just think-
individuals over 65 seek mental health services at a higher rate than other populations?
I don't agree with that.
Okay. So in general, lower, right? So,
Right.
you know, the come from a generation where we didn't talk about our feelings.
Right.
Okay. And especially older men, they're, what? I'm not telling you about this.
Okay, so then I'm left with C and D.
Mhm.
C is surprisingly, attractiveness is a fine predictor of retirement adjustment. Or D, surprisingly, financial security and health are the best predictors of retirement adjustment. So when I think about what a counselor who primarily works with older adults, what they need to be aware of, I would choose D.
Very
That
good.
financial security and health are going to be the best predictors of retirement adjustment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Okay. So again, in the book, there was a term called cultural, what's it called? Culture encapsulation. You know what that one means? Culture encapsulation. If I think about the way that I help remember, is think about a Tylenol capsule. So I used to don't have one, but so if I had like a really long toilet paper holder, right? I'm looking out through the world. I'm looking out through my little eyes, how I see the world. I only see it from my cultural viewpoint. So it's a lot like the ethic approach, but it's called cultural encapsulation, that I'm seeing the world from my bubble. Now, y'all remember when COVID first started, y'all was sure them Chinese people was nasty. We weren't going to get affected, were we? Because it was them over there. They were eating bats. Right? Honestly, that's what we thought when it first started. So we also, as Americans, were able to live in our little bubble that somehow it won't affect us because we're Americans. So that term is called culture encapsulation. One second, some questions. White privilege, that's usually an uncomfortable conversation. What's that?
From what you explain, white privilege is something like white people getting same treatment more than others.
Because
They're the dominant culture.
yeah, well, so I'm going to say dominant and majority as well. Okay, so white privilege is you didn't do anything but be white, born white in a country where the majority of people are white. Okay, so has nothing to do with anything you did or anything that you didn't do. It's just the fact that you were born in this country where the majority of people that have the power. When I travel and I leave the United States, I have experienced Black privilege. That I get treated differently because when we're in the country like, oh, I usually get treated differently because, I'm an American most often, and then a Black American, many other, the Caribbean, like, oh, wow, hey, you're great. So just because you're the majority of the population. One of the things I think about is like makeup. So when you're trying to find like natural color makeup, so if you go to, and that it's much different now, gosh, we always know it's much different. But we know back in the day, ask your parents, the big lines didn't sell makeup for people of color. There was like brown and dark brown. That was it. There's no other choices. So you couldn't run to your local store and find some makeup or lipstick that necessarily matched your skin. Now we see that much differently. So now we see that the makeup lines and things now have a whole array. But depending on where you live, the ethnic hair section still may only be this big. Okay. So if it's this big, that means that I have got a very large African-American or whatever community that I'm serving to. So, and again, now, especially with the big lines of cosmetics, you know, we can look at like, you know, Rihanna that has like every hue, like all these amazing different colors. So we just didn't have that before. Do you know what percentage African-Americans are in the United States?
I think you said 13 from your video a few years ago.
13.9, very small percentage, very small percentage. So if I own a business and I'm a typical businessman, I'm not going to have a huge line of African-American cosmetics because that's not where the majority of my money is coming from. So privilege is because of your race that you're the majority of this in this country. Okay, so that's white privilege. Didn't do anything to have it. Okay, I think I'm with you, Tamika.
Okay, a freshman who is attending college away for the first time is expected to make an blank transition in order to fit in and have a successful first year college experience.
Say my question, explain to me what's happening.
Okay, so this person will be attending college for the first time and is expected to have a good transition with that experience.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. Okay, I guess I would eliminate. Okay, so I really don't know this one, so but I guess I would eliminate A.
Okay, so let's walk through them. Okay, can somebody explain A and B to her?
Hollow plastic is what she said, the change in environment. Auto plastic is the change in you.
Got
Okay.
it, got it.
So
Okay.
basically that was my I don't know those words, but just looking at auto, so I figured it would mostly deal with yourself. So that's why I eliminated the A over B. Just kind of looking at the word origin. So I would take A out.
A is my answer.
Oh, A is your answer?
Read the, oh, I'm sorry, wrong question. Wrong question. I am so sorry. That's the next
Okay.
question. I apologize. B is
Okay.
my answer. I apologize. Okay. So mama's not going to come wake him up to get him to school, college, right? You have to change on the inside. When it comes to ethic and image, the counselors are ethic and image. The clients, then this one is auto and allo because it's the client has to make a change. Ethic and image are the counselors need to make a change. What is egocentric, Tamika?
Again, I would think that would be something self-centered.
Okay. So remember who it belongs to?
It would belong to the client.
What theorist does it belong to?
Oh, what theorist?
Mhm.
That is okay. Well, Freud did the id, ego, and super ego. But
Hold on.
ego,
That is
ego.
exactly how you got through grad school. You might not have known the answer, but if you told the teacher what you knew, then that got your point.
But then also, it is Piaget.
Very good. It is Piaget. What stage?
It is the
SPCS.
pre-operational.
Very good. What do children look like at that age?
They are, I think, between the ages of 2 and
Mhm.
3 or 5.
It's usually 2 to 7 is what the book
Okay.
says. Okay.
Okay.
So what does it look like? How would I know a kid is egocentric?
Okay, so that would kind of everything revolves around them. I've been a teacher, so I know usually they experience that where they always want to be first in line.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all about them. They want to answer every question.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to
Nobody
share.
else exists. Share with
Yes.
who? Oh, my
Yeah.
world is me. Share with who? Okay, that's Piaget. Now, ethnocentrism, what's that one mean? Still with me? Come on, we're going to use the same base words.
Mhm.
Ethnocentrism.
Okay, so
My ethnicity is the center.
okay.
Americans think we the best, right? We the best. We the best. We gonna go out in every country. We're gonna bring them a Bible and tell them that they need to be like us.
Okay, so I guess when I taught first grade, there was a little girl and she raised her hand and she said she was Korean and she said my grandmother said Koreans are smarter than Americans. So would that kind of be
That's
the
ethnocentrism. That's ethnocentrism. We believe, and it's not necessarily about your race, it's about your culture, right? So her okay, that's what she believes. So that's ethnocentric. So egocentric, right, is my ego is the center. Ethno, my ethnicity is the center. Usually in my videos, I always talk about Dallas Cowboy fans think you're God's team. Just saying, because y'all think y'all all special and stuff, just because, God needs to shine down on that team. I'm just going to put it out there, okay? So, but that's a culture, right? Dallas Cowboy fans are just diehard fans.
They
I'm not a
really
fan.
are.
But they are, and no matter what you say, it's a culture. It's colors on. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're American. I see Dallas Cowboy fans everywhere. So culture and ethnicity. So they think that their team is the best.
Mm-hmm.
And don't you dare talk bad about them. They
Not
ready
at
to
all.
fight.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Okay. So that's I want you to use that in real life, not just try to memorize it. Use it. Your ethnicity, you think you're the best. Okay. Okie dokie. So, is it big enough? Let me make it big. There we go. See that one? Show it sure as you see it.
Whose is it, doctor?
Joe, you hear me?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you say who it was either.
Okay.
All right. So, racial and ethnic minorities tend to be diagnosed with mental health disorders at a much higher rate than whites because diagnosis is not always done with a or an. Okay, so they're saying that the diagnosis as we know it perhaps doesn't have a multicultural consideration behind it. So I would take out the ethical settings because no one is intentionally being unethical when they create these things.
Okay. You're thinking too much and not reading my question.
Okay.
Go back to my question. No thinking. What's the question? Ask me.
They're asking why it is that racial and ethnic minorities are diagnosed more often at a higher rate than white.
Okay. Does that exactly? So it's not a question if they are, it's the fact that they are. That's a fact.
Yeah.
But got it. Now the question is why? Okay.
I
Now,
believe it's D, cultural context, because that has to be taken into consideration. If it isn't,
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Very good. Very good. So what is your religious background?
non-denominational.
So what does a funeral look like?
It's kind of individualistic in terms of, you know, what does the person, if they have the opportunity to speak up about what they want their funeral to look like, what did they want it to look like?
So let's try again. When you go to a funeral, what does it normally look like?
Again, that's the thing. So my aunt had a funeral, and you know, she wanted everyone to wear bright colors, and you know, she wanted happy music, and she wanted people to get up and talk about the joyful memories that they had with her. And then, you know, I've unfortunately had friends die, and that looks very different because, you know, they're younger, or because, you know, they didn't speak to what they wanted at their funeral. So naturally, I think more often than not, I see funerals that are very somber occasions, very sad occasions, much more for the living than the dead, honestly.
What about you, Kathy? Funeral? What's your religion? Most often funerals, I'm not saying you need to be religious or church related, but most often funerals are related to our religious beliefs. Okay. So was that, tell me about a funeral you've been to, Kathy.
Yeah, I'm Catholic, so
Okay. What does that look like?
sad. Everyone wears black, mourning. That's
Okay, I'm gonna tell you what I think of. And please tell me that I'm wrong or right. I think there's candles everywhere. There's always like incense burning, and I got to get up off my knees and kneel and stand like 17 times. That pretty close?
Yes.
I need more like knee pads to go to a Catholic funeral, okay? Because I'm like, I can't get up. I can't keep doing this. Usually very short. And not trying to be judgmental at all, just trying to decide the experience if you've never been to a Catholic funeral. So that's our goal is always to learn about our culture. I had a client one time, and her brother died, a kid. And they were Catholic, and it was one of the shortest things. It was the saddest things I've ever seen. But it wasn't, no one said anything, but the priest. No family members said anything. Is that common for Catholic churches? And not to speak for all Catholic churches. Is that common though? Is that, you would agree with that? Anybody been to a Jewish funeral, some of the Hebrew faith? It's solemn, and there are no flowers. It is very much that, so many of our people, the Hebrew faith, Jewish people especially, will use rocks. So there's no flowers at the gravesite. There are rocks, because the Jewish people will say they've never had a place to live. They always had to wander through the desert. So the rocks were what you used. So to go to a Jewish funeral, it's going to be solemn. No one's going to cry. No one's going to say anything. Very solemn. There's rocks. The rabbi will give a few short words, and that's it. Right. They will sit shiva. What does that mean? I know that one. No Jewish friends? No Hebrew people in your... Shiva means I'm mourning for 7 days. We cover the mirrors, and we don't even look at ourselves in our mirror, because the goal is just to be sad and be in your moment and not worry about what you look like. So you sit Shiva for 7 days. An African-American funeral is like a circus. Especially if it's, you know, an older Black woman. We got 27,000 people there. Someone's trying to get in the casket with Big Mama. She's like 170, and the daughters are in their 95s, but they're still very emotional and loud. And you would think someone's schizophrenic. I'm just saying, it's crazy. It's crazy. So if you've ever gone to an African-American funeral, you're thinking, and I'm not going to say all of them, but especially Southern old Black women. That's kind of been the tradition. Okay. That's what you do. And, you know, you could be like the worst person in the entire world, but you're still gonna have that service at a church. The front doors may catch on fire when they're trying to will your body because you were so awful. But it's still just going to be at a church. So those are things that are very, very cultural and things that we're supposed to do. Remember that term broaching and bracketing. That's where you bring the terminology in to make sure that I understand where my client's coming from. I understand their viewpoint. So, and, you know, if I've never been to a funeral of someone of a different religious background of me, then I may be surprised. Should I go to a client's funeral? That's a code of ethics question sometimes.
Yes.
Based on?
The good for the client, but don't interact with family, like stay in the background.
It just depends.
Yeah. Oh,
There's not a yes or no answer. It just depends. It just depends. The same as the wedding. It just depends on the relationship that you had with the client. Okay, so it just depends. But yes, many times I've gone to funerals of clients, or not funerals of clients, but of their child or somebody else in their life, because it was important for them to see me there. And you're right, I'm not going to sit on the front row. I'm not going to sit with the family. I'm not going to make a scene. I'm just going to blend in and let them know that I was there. Okay, but there's some family or some clients that there's no way I'd go. Just, and it has more to do with the therapeutic relationship, not necessarily about the. I had a client once who died in a very rural part of Tennessee. It was in Georgia, actually, the mountains of Georgia. And her husband said, you do realize you'll be the only Black person at that funeral. Like, I knew that. I knew that. So I'm going in. I was there. I doubled the population of Black people in that town, and then I left. So, but it was important. It was important. The husband, I was working with a couple together, and it was important for me to be there. The code of ethics says it really just depends. Our job always is to find out about the client's culture. And it's okay to ask. It's okay to ask. But I don't want to say, what is you? What you do? What? I don't want to do that. That's rude. But I do want, it's okay to ask about the culture. And if I don't know about the culture, I can ask them questions. And I also just need to learn more. So broaching is when we bring in things, when I'm in a counseling setting, and I bring in things that may be racial, maybe social, political, maybe things that's very clear that the difference between myself and the client. If I'm working with clients right now and I know that they have families who may be here illegally, I may ask them, you know, how is immigration affecting your family? Are you worried about people? I don't have to wait for them to bring it up. Broaching means I'm going to bring it up. Okay. Someone's a member of the LGBTQIA population. I'm going to say something, you know, I'm not gay. Is that okay with you? Are you fine with me being, I'm a straight woman, I'm not a gay woman. Are you okay with this environment? So that's broaching. We approach it. We're not afraid of it. We're going to ask what the elephant in the room is. Okay. And bracketing, of course, is that my feelings, my beliefs have no place at all in the therapeutic relationship. I put the brackets outside of my feelings, my thoughts. I put everything outside before I go into that therapeutic relationship. Gina, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, look at that one for me.
A white counselor is working with an African-American client. The client asks the counselor, have you ever worked with a Black client before? The counselor reassures the client that when I work with clients, I don't see color. This is an example of a transparent.
Say my question.
Oh, sorry, say it again.
So explain the question to me first before we look at any of the answers. We always want to learn to understand the question. That's what's really going to make a difference of when we get to the test.
The client is asking the counselor if they've. Okay, so what I'm understanding is the client is wants to pretty much know if the client has ever worked with someone from an African-American culture to see if they, I guess, have an understanding of cultural maybe differences or perspectives.
Okay. And the counselor says what?
That they don't see color.
Okay. Is that an okay thing to say?
No.
Very good. Now read all 4 of my choices.
Transference, countertransference, micro invalidation, or objectivity. I would cancel out transference.
Okay. Transference doesn't matter across race. Remember, it's an unconscious feeling. So you can have transference with someone who not the same gender, not the same race. It's an unconscious thing of either I like you too much or I don't like you. Countertransference is the same way.
I would also cancel out B. I would say the answer is C, micro invalidation.
Very good. What does that mean?
It's basically like dismissing cultural like norms, or things that are normal in another culture, to say like it.
So you're right, but it's more like it doesn't have to be necessarily the whole group. I invalidated his feelings. Okay? And micro invalidation means it's a small thing. Microaggressions are a small thing. So for the book and for the test and for my own belief system is I believe that people in the counseling field don't do it purposely. My job is to teach people, that it matters that a client, this is how they wear their hair, this is what they do, this is how they eat. It matters. So your job as a counselor is to learn. So to say, I don't see color at all, invalidates any of his feelings. He brought it up for a reason. Okay. So microaggressions are the same kind of thing. They're the small things. However, they're still very painful. Instead of being overt and saying something overtly, many times microaggressions are the little things. For example, let me see here. Edna, you speak pretty good English for someone who's from Mexico. I don't even know where you're from, but have you heard things like that? That's a micro invalidation or microaggression, right? You don't even know you don't know where I'm from, but you gotta be from Mexico and you speak pretty good English, girl. Okay, that's a microaggression. Anybody else want to share things that you've heard that the person really might not have meant to be mean. They just didn't know any better.
I met a dude who told me, do you know how to twerk?
Of course you're
He
black
straight
girl.
up, yeah.
Of course you do. What do you mean?
I got so offended. I said, how dare you think I know how to twerk because I'm black?
Absolutely. Anybody else?
My coworker, well, my hair was really long and it was natural and
Mhm.
silk press, and she would always say that I have the best black girl hair.
You got the Becky with the good hair. Absolutely. 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 So it happens across all walks of life. It's not just definitely with people of color, but when you're marginalized, when you're the minority population, the majority is not used to seeing someone like you. So many times that's what people do. Doesn't make it okay, but that's what happens many times.
I have a question, and I'm not sure if this would fit into this,
Mm-hmm.
but so I grew up in a certain part of DC.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody is familiar with DC, there's Northeast, Southeast, Northwest. In certain parts, you have bougier, quote unquote, people. Certain parts, you have the lower income. They may be considered a little bit more ratchet than others, or whatever you want to call it. And so I remember being
So ratchet, do you want to define that for people that don't speak Ebonics?
Well, I guess what people would consider ghetto.
Thank you. I know what it means, but we always want to make sure.
And I just remember being like a teenager and people like being in school. I ended up going to school in Maryland in an area back then, higher upper class, middle class, African American people. So they had money, big homes. And I would remember people, like my peers, constantly asking, where are you from? And when I would say DC, and then I would say Southeast, and they would be like, oh, like, you don't, I wouldn't have thought you were from there. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, how am I supposed to act? But
I'm the same way.
but that's all under this, or that would be something totally.
No, that's still the same thing. That's still the same thing. So I've made some assumptions about you, right, without even asking you questions, and then I say something based on my assumptions about you.
Hey, Dr. Pam, my favorite part about that, because it happens so much with me. When somebody see me, they like, you smoke some good old weed. And I'll be like, I just can't be happy and goofy.
I would have never thought that about you at all. I just I would have never thought that. I think that for most people, even in our own homes, race is still an uncomfortable conversation. And if we can't learn to have it, then how can we have it with our clients? So, and most of us, that's not for public knowledge, right? We talk about that later. So I'm just looking through questions.
Doctor, did you call it kind of like what Sheena was talking about words, and we have to look it up on Urban Dictionary because it's one of the questions we've used. And like in one of our questions, it was that a client said, that girl is sick. Did you say it's called eubonics?
So urban grammar is the dictionary. That term, so the word so ebonics is Black people talk.
Okay, because I know we have a question and it talks about connotation, right?
So exactly. So and I think that question says something like, and what I usually use, and we don't use that anymore, I don't think, that you are fat girl, PH, right? So if I don't know what that means, then I've taken it out of connotation, out of context. So I have to ask the client or go home and Google it, Urban Dictionary, because I don't know what it means. I have to ask my daughter all of that. What did she hit last time? You are 8. You're 8, like ATE. What does that mean? That means you're attractive, right? You're 8. I think that's what.
But if somebody says you 8 down, that's like you look good. Like it could be like your outfit looks really good, your hair looks good, like, or if you perform something, it's like you did that, like you 8.
So I just said, "What's this mean?" And then she'll laugh. So
maybe it's more in groups. Now that we talk about it, maybe that's more in groups that we talk about that.
But no, it would be either way. Culture is culture. We could say culture in career. So that's when you're going to see just everywhere. It's not just any specific area. Let me talk about the racial identity models. Do you hear my dog snoring? No, she's snoring right beside me. So I'll put this in your chat box. The book talks specifically, I think, about, it just talks about the racial identity model, or the ethnic identity model. There's actually a couple of them. They all pretty much, they'll work the exact same way. So it talks about how we develop who we are and how we see ourselves, especially as a race. So that's where it comes from. It's funny that, so the Black American model is written by a white man, and the white model is written by a Black woman. So basically, it sounds pretty much the same, no matter what stage you're at. And I put it in your chat box, you can go back. So it usually talks about the racial identity model, but it talks about how we develop our view selves, or how we see ourselves. So I can tell you very much about the Black one because that's how my children, I watched it develop in my children. Am I sharing my screen?
Yes.
And I also put it in the chat box, so I'll make it bigger. Okay. So my children grew up in Miami. So we went to Fort Lauderdale, lived in Fort Lauderdale, where in that area, if you speak English, you're not the minority. Okay. So very, very, the fewest amount of people were naturally born white Americans. So, but all the kids, what they did growing up is really everybody, little kids still think that white is right. Santa Claus has to be white. The best baby dolls are white. Because no matter whether you're born here or not, you come over later, that pre-encounter of, you see the pictures of outside of America, that's white people having fun, in the grass, right? They're smiling and they're white people. So that's the picture that people see. So pre-encounter is where white is great. The individual absorbs much of the beliefs and values from the dominant culture and knows that white is right and Black is wrong. They de-emphasize their own group members and seek the assimilation accepted by whiteness. The individual may actively or passively distance themselves from being from other Black people. So my kids, especially, when they were growing up, they didn't grow up where color was such an issue, but definitely, everybody, the Hispanic kids, everybody thought white was just cool. So something happens with my son. It was the fact that when he would go to Walmart used to be open 24 hours a day. Do you remember that? Pre-COVID, it was always open. When he would go hang out with a mixed group of kids, so there's white people, Hispanic people, all different hues, then no one ever said anything. But when he went to Walmart at 2 a.m. with mostly darker people, the police gave him a hard time. So something happens where you realize that you're not the majority, that you're treated differently because of the color of your skin, and this is the Black model, so it's just based on the color of your skin. The immersion. So either you totally immerse yourself in Black culture, get to know more about your own culture, or you don't. You go the other way. You just have nothing to do with Black people, and you think that you're just white. Internalization is now when you begin to really realize that, yes, I'm Black and I'm proud to be Black. I can be a Black proud person, be myself, and not be racist. I can be a Black proud person and be who I am in any culture and be okay with that. There's a commitment to that. So those are the stages of how I realize that I'm a person of color in the United States and how I develop that. There's one on Hispanics. There's one on white people. They're all pretty much the same thing, though. We try to blend in, try to be like everybody else. Then something happens. We realize that we're not like everybody else. Then we label ourselves as part of our community, and then we thrive to that. And we learn that we can then be identified as whatever my culture is, and it not bring any kind of stigma to that. Okay, so that's in your chat box. So the book talks about the ethnic identity. I think called it ethnic identity. But it's still the same kind of process. You'll see the same words.
Dr. Pam, when I was booking in jail, they had Black, white, Hispanic, and Asian. That's it. That's all they had. So white. So when you went to jail, if you was Hispanic, you went in as white Hispanic. You never went in as just Hispanic. You literally was either labeled as white, Black, or Asian, and that was it. So you had Black Hispanic or white Hispanic, and that was it. Like, when the African Americans would come in, they would want to say, "Oh no, I don't want to be labeled as black." They were like, "Well, because Dallas County has such a old system, they never upgraded the race. That's how they kept it as. So it was always black, white, and Asian, and that was it.
Mhm.
That was the only ones they had. I told somebody, I said, "This is the most racist system you can ever work for."
So
But
that
I
is
realize
really,
now,
that's a term, though. That's a term, institutionalized racism. When it's in our school systems, when it's in our police departments, when it's anywhere. Part of that is we all like people that look like us. That's a normal human thing. We just do. That's an unconscious thing. If you want to say Freudian, in the family chapter, we talk about what's his name, Minuchin. He mimics the family. He mimics their behavior because he knows that people like people that do the same behaviors they do. That's a true thing. So if by history I've been the majority population, and I only used to hire people that look like me, and it's not always purposeful choice. That is just what I'm used to. So then if we continue down through generations, we can talk about Bowen. Then generations, we just keep continuing to do the same thing because we're most comfortable with people that look like us. So all of us have to go out of our way to be comfortable with people that don't look like us. And that's a choice. That's a choice you have to make. If I keep living my life with people that just look like me, then I'm not going to learn anything else about anybody else's culture. I don't want to be ethnocentric. I don't necessarily believe that my culture is the best. I think all cultures are very interesting. I just want to know. I want to know how you think and what you do and what happens in your house and what do you guys do. That to me, that's the coolest thing ever, is being different, recognizing that we're different. And there are categories for lots of different reasons, but institutionalized racism is really based on, I'm going to say the good old boy system, because really it's really based on white men. They had power. They would hire their other white male friends. It wasn't until later that when we've been considered to be hired. So that's just really part of the United States, so that institutionalized racism. We don't see that outside of the United States. Race is an American thing. It was really determined but during slavery times. So we could decide whether or not you were worth a whole person or half a person or how much you were worth. But you won't see that outside of the United States. Okay, so let me go here. I want to talk about some other terms that we don't often get to. Most of those. Any questions that you've seen someplace that we haven't gone over, any of those terms? Let's look at this. Again, this has got the least number of questions, the least number of questions. So we will not spend another day in this. Go back and look over it. My last person, I think she said that, like, she had 7. Okay. Tamika, take this one.
The term contextualism implies that A, multicultural counseling is the oldest subspecialty in the profession. B, behavior must be assessed in the context of the culture in which the behavior occurs. C, the notion of worldview is highly inaccurate. D, projective tests are more accurate than objective measures when performing cross-cultural counseling. Okay. So this is basically a definition.
We
of-
talked about this a minute ago when we were talking about understanding the context of the words. Contextualism just means taken into context. Okay, so to go to a person's funeral and to see people crying and acting a fool may seem bizarre, but if you take it into context, that's natural in that population. Read all four.
let's see.
That's going to be an awful recording. Okay. So A, multicultural
Okay.
counseling is the oldest subspecialty of the profession. B, behavior must be assessed in the context of the culture in which the behavior occurs. C, the notion of worldview is highly inaccurate. D, projective tests are more accurate than objective measures when performing cross-cultural counseling. Does anybody know what D means? Projective tests are by who? That's Freud, right? You see the TAT, thematic appreciation test, the Rorschach test, like you look at the pictures and you're projecting from your unconscious onto the picture. Pre-association, that's a projective test. Those are Freudian things. Everything is hidden in your unconscious. All right, so whenever I see projective tests, I know that that's Freudian. It says projective tests are more accurate than objective measures when performing cross-cultural counseling. Was Freud subjective or objective?
Highly subjective.
Highly subjective. Absolutely. Subjective tests are never going to be more accurate. Okay, so objective measures are factual. So in my unconscious, you can't see what's down there. So Freud's opinion was subjective. Okay. What else can I take out? Tamika.
I have no idea.
You want to help her out? What else?
Chapter A, multicultural counselors the oldest
We know that is not true.
specialists in the
That is
profession.
not true. That is not just started, right? Just started yesterday. Now between C, B, and C. The thing is, like, this term contextualism is not, it's not a necessary a clinical term. It's just to make sure that we take it in context. We understand what they meant by that or where they were when they were saying that. The notion that the worldview is highly inaccurate or behavior must be assessed in the context of the culture in which the behavior decides. Which one of those is true?
B, behavior must be assessed in the context of the culture in which the behavior occurs.
That answers my question. All it's asking me is to define contextualism, and that is my answer. Okay. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to let you guys all go. Okay, so we're going to start chapter 3 next week. Chapter 3 is definitely where we're going to start with the bits, the pieces that are so important of knowing my therapist. Okay, so 4, I usually start with picking 4. So let's do Carl Rogers. Let's do Carl Rogers, person-centered, Gestalt, Carl Rogers, Gestalt, solution-focused, and narrative. Textbook has it, and then you can go to my YouTube channel, and you're probably not going to find one that separates them all out. So you might have one that has all of the theories, but the goal is we're just focusing on those 4. Okay, go back, watch the video if you're not sure what I said. Bye, guys. Hold on. Let me make sure this will open. Let me put this in there.
Carl Rogers, what else did you say? Carl Rogers and what else?
You have to come back and watch the video.
Gestalt. I wrote that one down.
Can you open that and see? Make sure you can open that Word doc.
Yes, I can open it.
Remember, you should watch this video 15 times. Over and over and over again. Let me be in your head. Let me be in your head. In your head. Okay? Bye, guys.